Hi, I'm Joni Patry, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Well, today I want to talk about something very important that is afflicting our world today, and I believe in part due because of so much has been going on in the world that has caused so many people to be unhappy. I think it's the political polarization. There is no one feels like they can trust what's going on in the governments, and this is around the world. But most of all, what the coronavirus has caused around the world, so many people in these lockdowns, they are depressed, and people are really experiencing a lot of mental illness because of this. There is so much going on. People are abusing drugs, they're overeating. People are compensating from the fact that they are not connected to others. And I have to say, there seems to be such a lack in spiritual awareness. There is so much going on, but for the most part, people are angry. And of course, astrologically, the planets play together in their cycles that produce the masses to be upset and angry. And with the lockdowns, with the coronavirus, with so much death and fear that's so prevalent in the world right now, no wonder there's so much mental discord and disease. There's mental illness. And I wanted to show what I felt like in a chart can detect mental illness. It is actually the moon in a chart that deals with the mind, awareness. Mercury, yes, does deal with the way that we process information, but those two planets are vitally important in understanding mental health. And there's a particular aspect, most of you, don't worry, you do not have it in your chart, because this is a severe condition that can represent mental illness. And this condition is called a Kemadruma moon. Now, I wrote a book a while ago that goes through all these combinations dealing with the moon, and it's actually called Moon, Mind, and Consciousness. Now, this is a different cover than the one that you will find on my website, but if you're interested in looking into this book deeper, go to my website, which is galacticcenter.org, and check out my page of the books that I've written. And Moon, Mind, and Consciousness is the one that covers every aspect of what the moon can mean in a chart, even in prediction, as well as the Pachanga, because the Pachanga in Vedic astrology is all the variables based on the lunar cycle and the moon. But getting back to such a difficult aspect that the Kemadruma moon is all about, I'm going to show a chart just to show you an example of what Kemadruma moon actually is. What Kemadruma moon is when the moon in a chart is isolated alone from all the other planets. That's one thing that makes one feel isolated, separated, and unconnected to others. We need connections. And you see, the moon in a chart needs to feel connected by all the different moon's yogas. And the different moon's yogas can be where Jupiter is in an angle from the moon, either being in the same sign or 4 signs away, opposite the moon, or 10 signs away. That's called a Gajakasari yoga. That's definitely going to enhance the moon through Jupiter. But when you don't have any yogas, any aspects to the moon, it is completely alone, and it has no oppositions, no moon's yogas. A moon's yoga, by the way, is when you have planets on one side or the other of the moon, or in the same house with the moon. And no, the sun and Rahu and Ketu do not count. They are not the planets, okay? The sun is the luminary, and when you put the sun together with the moon, you have a new moon. When you put the sun opposed the moon, you have a full moon. This creates the cycles of the moon. It is not a planet. Rahu and Ketu disturb the moon. So if you're thinking, when I'm talking about the moon being isolated and you have either Rahu or Ketu with the moon, no, it is still isolated. And the nodal axes will actually make it more difficult, much more difficult. Because Rahu with the moon is going to cause issues with extremes. Ketu with the moon is going to cause issues with loss. And anytime you have Rahu or Ketu with the moon, that means that the opposite node goes to the 7th house from the moon, causing disturbances with relationships. So people that have Rahu or Ketu with the moon are going to struggle at some point with their relationship. It's just the nature of the moon with the nodes. But going back to Kemadruma moon, I thought I might put up the chart just to give you an example of what the Kemadruma moon looks like. And Kemadruma, by the way, it pretty much means the mind is isolated or cracked. There's something wrong. The mind doesn't connect to other people. It's disturbed. And therefore, Kemadruma moon can depict mental illness, most definitely. So let's put up the chart of O.J. Simpson, because in this chart, you're going to see he has Kemadruma moon. If you will look over to where his moon sits. Now, first of all, O.J. Simpson's ascendant is in Leo, around 1 degree of Leo. But look to where the moon goes in the 8th house. Now, first of all, just by having a moon in the 8th house is extremely difficult. They say that the mother has a hard time when the moon is in the 8th house, but the 8th house is the most difficult house. Just with that, in terms of the moon in the 8th, life is not easy at all. But let's talk about it in terms of it being isolated. There are no planets in the houses that surround the moon. If you look at the 9th house or the 7th house, those are the two houses that surround the 8th house. There are no planets. The moon sits in the 8th house all by itself. And if you'll go opposite the moon, there is not a planet that aspects the moon by opposition. Yes, Neptune's there, which makes it even worse. Because Neptune can be not seeing clearly, being delusional, being out of your mind in a certain way. And Neptune can many times deal with drugs or substance abuse, not always. And sometimes it can be psychic intuitive abilities. But it's not helping the moon. And if you'll go to Saturn's full aspect, Saturn's not aspecting the moon. Trust me, even Saturn's aspect would have helped out. Saturn sits in Cancer. And actually, being in Cancer is ruled by the moon. And that could be a depressive force too, that Saturn sits in the sign ruled by the moon. And Mercury is actually with Saturn, being in the sign of Cancer ruled by the moon. And whenever you connect Mercury with the moon, there can be instability in the thought process. It's on overdrive, overload, and it is not balanced. There's too much emotion, there's too much feeling when Mercury is in the sign of Cancer. And it is with Saturn, which, by the way, could cause a sense of depression, restriction, a feeling of being closed in, not having the freedom you want. But going back to the Kemadruma, Saturn's special aspects is 3 signs from where it is, which means Saturn's aspecting where Virgo is, 1, 2, 3. So Saturn's aspecting the second house. And Saturn's full aspect, Saturn's opposing the sixth house. And Saturn's 10th aspect is aspecting Aries, the ninth house. So Saturn does not aspect the moon. Jupiter sits in Libra. Jupiter aspects by, of course, conjunction, opposition, but 5 and 9 from where it is. That is a full 100% in power aspect. So counting to where Jupiter is in the third house, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Jupiter aspects the seventh house. And the other aspect is the ninth aspect, which it aspects the 11th house. So Jupiter does not aspect the moon. Even Mars would help out here. Mars special aspects is 4 placements to 8 placements from where it is located. So Mars aspects where it is in the 10th house. 1, 2, 3, 4. It aspects the first house, and it aspects by 8 placements from where it is the 5th house. Mars does not aspect the moon. Once again, this is a prime example of what a Kemadruma moon is. And when I think of Kemadruma moon, I think of someone whose mind is cracked. It can definitely indicate someone whose mind is disturbed. Yes, disturbed. And sometimes it can represent mental illness. Now, there are so many other variables that could cancel this. So for most of you that might think you have this, think again. Unless you feel like there is something really wrong with the mind, I don't think you'll have the Kemadruma moon. But I wanted to bring this up mainly because there are so many people suffering with mental illness and mental instability. And one thing I do want to say, for those of you that feel like you can't handle what is going on right now with the lockdowns, with the fear, with the craziness in the world, get help. Because the only way that we can really help people, remember this is something I heard recently that really is true, that hurt people can hurt people. And the only way to remedy this is to get help. Yes, mental disease can be worked on and brought into control through getting help. It is so important. If you see these things in a chart, if you feel these things, if you think there's a problem, more than any time ever on planet Earth, we need to help people get the help they need if they are suffering from great depression and mental anxiety and problems with the mind. So with that, I'd like to close. If you would like more information on me, like to sign up for a reading or sign up for my free newsletter, go to my website, which is galacticcenter.org. Don't forget, check out my beautiful spiritual jewelry. And if you would like to study Vedic astrology with me, go to my university website, which is University of Vedic Astrology.com. Thank you.